we're tricking everybody.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There we have some people here, Coretta and Kathy, Janice. Welcome.
Got it.
Can everybody hear us?
Finally.
Oh, good.
I can hear you. I don't see your pictures up though.
Oh, you don't?
No, I only see myself.
Oh, that's good. Or bad, whichever.
Ah, there you are. Hello.
Hello.
I know it says Christopher Jones, but I am really John Baxter.
Yeah.
I promise.
Yes, he's gonna rip off his Mission Impossible face mask pretty soon.
Yeah, exactly. But then I'll be Tom Cruise, won't I?
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be nice. You're far better than Tom Cruise any day, John.
Oh, we must do this more often.
I know. You know how much I love you.
Oh, my dear, I'm deeply moved.
I'm so excited to get to share one of my very favorite people in Paris with everybody, John Baxter. Every time I go, we end up we go to lunch. What's Ferdinand?
For the Petit Fernand.
Yes, that's where we go. It's delicious. And have some
that's where we were last time, and people were taking photographs of us because they recognized us as international celebrities.
Exactly. See, Tom Cruise, just like Tom Cruise.
Exactly,
yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot that people were like looking over and whispering and taking pictures.
Yeah, that was funny. In fact, I went in there sometime earlier with a group of people from New York, and they said, we want to eat at a typical French bistro. And I said, well, I know a very good one, really classic. And we went in there, and the plat of the day was os à moelle, which is marrow bones. So you get a big piece of bone which you dig out the marrow. And one of the women was a vegetarian, and she looked at all these bones around her, and she sort of, had a kind of attach. She said, I can't eat here. It's all these. So we had to find a vegetarian restaurant to eat in. Not easy in Paris,
No. Oh, I love it. But I always call them, when I was little, our parents had a meat shop. So we always had stuff like that. And I always called it meat butter.
oh yeah. Marrow is delicious.
Yeah. But I could see how it could be traumatizing for a vegetarian.
Well, yeah, she was really spooked, I'm afraid.
Yeah. That's a wonderful restaurant.
No, it is. Petit Fernand is one of the better places, yes.
Yes. And then Marseille Saint-Germain, of course.
Oh, well, yes.
Our favorite cheeses.
Yeah, see, that's so sad. The Marché Saint-Germain, where I shop every day, really, there's only like 2 or 3 vendors there now.
Really?
Yeah, most of people have shutting down. All that area is really very sad. A lot of the little restaurants, they're not just closed, they're out of business. They've got the Balacede sign up, meaning they're sold the lease.
Oh no. Is the what is the name? I have it actually hanging up here. The Sanders, the fromagerie, is he still there?
Oh no, he's still there. No, yes, Sanders they're good, but the people who are actually selling prepared food, they're the ones that are suffering,
Oh, that's the best place.
Yeah, no, it is good, really. It's funny, when I first went to Paris, the Marché Saint-Germain was primitive. It was just a kind of open enclosure, and inside there was like a big shed, and there were no fixtures at all. People came in with trestle tables set up and put out their produce, or some of them were selling junk, and it was really, really primitive. And then they decided to upgrade it and gentrify it. And now, of course, it's one of the best places to shop.
Yes, very fancy. The best pate ever is from the boucherie that's there. He makes the best pate, and
the stuff there is a bit more expensive, but it's worth it, I think, for the produce. And there's a couple of fruit and veg guys, prima people, and I love it when you go into a place like that and you say, what's good today? And you say, I've got some wonderful beans or tremendous new tomatoes or something like that. And you really feel, it's like a discovery.
Well, I'll never forget those figs you got there one day when I ran into you. You were buying those figs that were just humongous, and they were like absolute perfection.
Oh yes, that's the sort of thing that you miss when you go to a place where there are supermarkets. It's not the same.
Yeah,
Luckily, in Fura, where we are now, the markets here are really good. But
that's
we also have a woman who has her own little home farm, and every week she brings in her selection of whatever is good that week that she's grown herself.
wow.
Her name is Madame Gâteau.
Madame Gâteau.
Madame Cake, Mrs. Cake. Yes.
Is that really her name? Is her name really
Yes,
Madame?
it's really it's
Wow.
really her name. She's Madame Gâteau.
Wow.
And she's great. She also makes her own jams from her own fruit. So she brings the newest jam that she's made. So yeah,
That's
tremendous.
wonderful.
Mm.
So we have everybody here because this month for our Vie Creative Book Club, we picked Monsieur Baxter's book, his book about Christmas, A Paris Christmas, Immoveable Feast. It has also been made into this wonderful, amazing title, Cooking for Claudine. Sadly, it wasn't me. I like to call his mother-in-law Claudine, the original Claudine. And so which I actually thought, John, that this edition came first, but it was this one that came first.
I think so, yes. I'm not sure. I think one is the UK edition and the other is the American edition. The text is the same.
Yeah, the text is the same. Yeah.
The same. I'm not sure. The same illustrations, are they? The Peiku illustrations? I think so.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. The Peiku is an illustrator that my wife is very passionate about. She is the president of the Andre Peiku Society. And she collects Peiku drawings and paintings and has documented his life and so on.
I imagine this was you at that first Christmas.
That's me, very nervously, sort of trying to ingratiate myself with my French family.
Yeah. So did everybody read the book?
No, not that many. My sister-in-law's got good English. She read it. Most of the rest of my adoptive family don't speak any English at all.
Oh, so that's good. You can put all sorts of things in the books.
Oh, well, no. But I tell you what did happen. In the book, I describe going to a butcher here in this town to buy a pig, a stucking pig for Christmas dinner, and how the butcher put on a real performance when I said, the pig must have its skin because I want to have crackling, and he said, of course it will have its skin, monsieur. And he did this little performance. He said, he posed and he sort of said, he'll be beautifully clothed, So I wrote this up, and a couple of years later, I was in the market again, and this man came up to me and says, it's me. And I said, I'm sorry. He said, I'm the butcher. Remember, you bought the pig from me and you wrote about me in your book. And I thought, oh dear, maybe he would be offended. He said, oh no, it's marvelous. He said, a friend in New York, he said he saw it and he read it to me. He did a translation. It's so wonderful. I'm so glad. I'm sorry I sold the shop, but I'm still feel I'm at home here and so on and so on. So it was sweet. And even now, people in the market will say, oh, you're the guy who wrote the book.
You made them all celebrities.
Oh, well, for Fura, which is not a big town. It's just a village, really.
And then didn't you make that, what holiday was it this year that you made the suckling pig again? One day we were talking and you said you were making the whole suckling pig again. Wasn't that something?
When was that? I forget. Was it that this year?
Maybe was it last Christmas.
Yeah, no. What was the occasion? I forget. Yes, I did. This is true. Yes, we had the dinner maybe it was my wedding anniversary. It could have been, maybe. I think. Yeah. It's difficult to do it because ovens are too small.
Right. If they even have ovens half the time.
Well, yeah, well, we do. We have a very good oven, but it's still, I can't get a whole sucking pig into it. I mean, if it's bigger than like a sort of kitten, you know, you're really stuck.
Oh, that's a
That's
thought.
right. That's right. I'm now you're reminding me. I remembered cooking that sucking pig this year, but I forget what the
I
occasion.
can't remember what the occasion was.
No, nor I. Well, every day is a feast in Paris, as you
That
know.
is true. It's a movable feast or
Movable feast,
immovable feast.
Few commercial.
It is a feast. Yeah. So
definitely.
what did I can't believe it would seem to be so nerve-wracking, especially to a French family, especially to French mothers, which I've met a few, to
Mhm.
come in and create and cook for them.
Yes, the most, if you know what French mothers are, they're
Mhm.
very defensive and protective, but most of them are not very good cooks.
Oh.
So they'll sometimes kind of allow a man to come in, especially a foreigner, and do things, or come to a dinner where the man does the cooking. But they are very cautious. It's true. But I think now I've been accepted at least in our family and the others that we know. I've been accepted as that strange foreigner, who comes in and cooks dinners. And of course now there's a more and more a custom of people doing dinners in their own homes, for as a money-making thing. You can have a dinner party in somebody's home or in your home. The chef comes in and cooks dinner for you, or you go to their place. And in Paris, that's now quite common.
That's what did you make this year for Christmas dinner, even though it's probably a much smaller affair?
Well, yeah, but in fact, we were very lucky because Christopher was here, and also my daughter is here, and so on. I thought, yeah, why not have a proper Christmas dinner? So there's a bird that I particularly like. It's a pantard, which is a guinea hen, which is like a game bird, somewhere between like a pheasant and a chicken. And it's a really tasty bird, but it's usually quite small. The meat is sort of a bit more gamey than chicken. And if you have a pantard that is also a chapon, a caponized one, where it's treated so it doesn't have actually any of the sex chemicals. It grows quite big. It grows quite fat. And so I got the butcher to do me a caponized pantard, which is, so it was a pantard, but larger than the conventional pantard. And he delivered. It was very good, a 2 kilogram bird, which was perfect for 5 people. And so I did that with a traditional dressing, a stuffing, but cooked outside the bird. I just put inside the bird an onion and a lemon to keep it moistened. And then I did, in fact, there's a recipe in Immoveable Feast for this carrot pudding, which my daughter loves. So I did one of those. And then, of course, for dessert, we had the English Christmas pudding. And it was very pleasant. Oh, and Brussels sprouts, baked Brussels sprouts, which is something I've recently discovered. I
Oh,
never liked boiled Brussels sprouts, but baking them it really makes them delicious.
yeah, I think Americans have an idea of Brussels sprouts that your parents used to make, and they were never very good.
They were horrible. They had all the bad characteristics of cabbage.
Oh yeah.
Including the smell. But if you cut them in half and dress them with olive oil and salt and pepper, and then bake them in the oven, they get caramelized underneath and a little crispy on top.
Yeah, they're delicious.
Yeah, delicious.
Very good. Yeah, I think when we were kids, my mom would boil them and then put hollandaise, packaged hollandaise sauce on them.
I can't imagine this was great. No.
It wasn't good.
So we've eaten very well, and today, because it's my wife's birthday, our daughter made a lemon crumble, and
Oh.
I did a couple of other dishes. So we haven't been starving ourselves.
No, and she's pursuing her dreams of cooking and pastry chef instead of being in the creative writer and director, you were saying.
Well, yeah, this is the strange thing, you know, when you being the daughter of two writers, or a writer and a filmmaker, we thought, of course, she'll go into the arts, and we kind of encouraged this, you know. We sent her to dancing classes, and all the things that you think of will make her more creative, and in fact, she's gone in absolutely the other direction. She is a technocrat. She works for RATP, which is the system that controls the metro in
right.
Paris, and she is their online text writer for their app.
Oh.
So it's as far away from our lives as you can imagine. But she loves to cook, and she's a great baker. She made some wonderful sugar cookies for Christmas, and of course the crumble, and her cakes are superb, really.
Well, I do think she gets that from you, though, John. She didn't fall that far off the tree.
No, my father, of course, was a professional pastry cook, but I'm hopeless with cakes, so it's jumped a generation.
Well, John, when in Paris, if you get to Paris, you could do tours with him, and the tours always end up at his apartment, and you get to have a lovely little lunch and a glass of wine. And it's also the same apartment that Sylvia Beach used to live in. So the first time I went there, I was really walking in the footsteps of my forefathers.
Well, it's true, yes. It wasn't actually, we don't live in her apartment. It was 2 floors below, but the same building. And yes, she did visit our apartment because it was occupied by a painter, an Australian painter, and her partner. So, you know, 2 gay couples in the same building, of course, they knew one another.
Yes.
And Hemingway did come, yes, he came there often. And of course, when he came in 1944 to liberate Odeon, the first place he came to was our building.
Yeah, an actual liberation he did, other than the Ritz.
Yeah, well,
there was no liberating the Ritz.
Yeah. In one of my books, I described the rather complicated process of him looking for a place to stay in Paris and trying the most luxurious places he knew. And for one reason or another, they weren't available. So he ended up at the Ritz, yes. And the Ritz was a bit embarrassed because it had been a real hangout for all the Nazis and the collaborators, and they wanted to sort of improve their image. So, you know, giving a suite to Hemingway was a good idea. And when he said, well, I've got my girlfriend with me, they said, oh, well, she can have a suite as well.
Was it Mary?
Yeah, Mary, who became the third wife, yes.
The one I disliked the most.
Yeah, no, the wife who got on best with him, he said he was much more comfortable with her because they drank together.
Yes.
And the other wives were not great drinkers, but Mary could bend an elbow better than most. Yes.
Yes, I'm not a big fan, and I see Danielle shaking her head because I've been vocal in my writing about how I feel about Mary.
Well, you know, he even said, he confessed to Marlene Dietrich, didn't he, that she was the only woman with whom he'd had a really satisfying sex life.
Yeah.
Maybe because of the drink, you know, it loosened them up a bit, made them more kind of relaxed. But until then, he had a very unhappy series of affairs and marriages. So, you know, she fulfilled the function, certainly.
Yes, I guess so. I just didn't like what she did after the fact, after he died.
No, I agree. The whole thing of what the family has done since, I think, doesn't reflect very well on any of them.
No. So I always say that a lot of people don't like Pauline, but I put a Mary at the top of my don't like list.
Have you read some of these sort of synthetic novels they've created, like True at First Light and those things?
Like The Paris Wife and those ones?
Yeah, no, not a Paris. No, the ones where they've taken outlines and stuff that Hemingway wrote and
Oh,
recombined it. You know, there was one called the Garden of Eden, and then
oh,
the
right.
second one is called True at First Light. And they
The Garden
use
of
it,
Eden was published after he passed
yeah,
away.
these are
Yeah,
posthumous. Both of them are
yeah,
posthumous. Yeah,
yeah. I have
yeah,
that one. Somebody gave me a first edition copy. They were cleaning out their garage and found it and sent it to me.
oh, it's nice.
Yeah, and I think Garden of Eden doesn't have some of Paris in there too. Doesn't he talk about
It
Paris?
does.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's interesting. The both of them contain miscellaneous stuff. Some of it is like True at First Light is mostly about a safari because
Oh,
Mary wanted to shoot a leopard or something, and but interspersed in it are some incidents from Paris.
mhm.
And when one of them is surprisingly important, it's the one where he has an affair with the concierge in a building where he's living. And though he doesn't give the exact date, I can pretty well specify the exact date and the building and so on.
Mhm.
So they're not without interest, but they're not
Yeah,
they're not serious books, I
right.
think.
It's always in, but it's also all of the things that, so many of the things that he wrote, like the going down to, he says, sans supplice to pray, when he is having issues in the bedroom, and how
Right.
that actually happened in Key West. So
Yeah. Mhm.
there's some of those things in there where it's like you can't really take everything as gospel, I guess.
Certainly not. Yeah, the one he's given goat's blood to drink or something, and also they wire him up with electrodes to various parts of his body. Yeah, but I think what he did was to scrape together all of these incidents
Yeah,
and turn them into a single episode.
put them all
Um,
together.
yeah, this is the problem. Too many people, I think, rely on what Hemingway said as being gospel truth,
Yes.
when really, as somebody said, actually, they're using a rather good bullfighting metaphor. He said, as a writer, Hemingway works very close to the bull, which I think is true.
Yeah, have you seen the books, the letters that Cambridge has put together?
Oh yeah, no, I've got the letters. They're very interesting,
They're
actually.
really interesting, and that's where I've actually found all sorts of interesting things. Like, when Hadley lost the manuscripts, he writes that he basically jumped on the train. Well, if you read the letters, he didn't go back to Paris for almost 2 months.
Yeah, that's
He
right. Yeah,
waited.
he offered a reward.
Yeah. So it's actually, I love going through those and kind of putting together and reading the postscript notes, and they really did a lot of work on putting those things together.
Yeah, no, the letters are really revealing.
Yes.
And also, of course, as an appendix to the letters, they have this article about him going into the bull ring with the Donald Ogden Stewart wrote
Mhm.
about him being in the bull ring, and the article was suppressed in his lifetime, but only printed after his death.
Mhm.
And I knew Donald Ogden Stewart, so I got a sort of the story from him, and then
Wow.
he showed me a manuscript, of the article that Hemingway had written, and he said I couldn't allow this to be published. It was so humiliating, the way Hemingway treated me, pushing me into the bull ring in Pamplona with all of these young bulls, and one of them threw me and everything. So I wouldn't allow it to be published, but he had the original manuscript that Hemingway sent it to Vanity Fair to be published, and the editor at Vanity Fair sent it to Don. So he had it now. So I read it then, but I only reread it when it came out in the letters.
Huh. How did you meet him?
Don Stewart, well, when I lived in London, he lived quite close, just about a mile away.
Oh.
And I went and visited him. He was quite wealthy, and when he was blacklisted, he was a, very left wing. He was driven out of Hollywood in 1947 with his wife, and they came to live in London, and they bought a beautiful mansion on the top of the hill at Highgate, and they lived there for some years, almost kind of incognito. And but I knew of him, and so I went and visited him, and I used to come back quite often. and he was charming, very funny man. He was then in his late 80s, early 90s, but very witty. Um, he would he would say, I remember this dinner party. Well, it was wonderful. There was Clark, there was Greta, there was Catherine, and I'd say, Clark Gable. Yes, yes, of course, Clark Gable, and Catherine would. Yes, Catherine Hepburn. Yes, of course, Catherine Hepburn, and Greta Garbo. And he'd say, what? I'd say, but you said Greta. That's Greta Garbo. Greta Garbo? No, of course it wasn't Greta Garbo. No, it was Greta Feinstein. You know, he was my wife's psychiatrist. Why would you? And he would play with you like that. He said, "I'm sorry, I can't offer you a drink." He said, "I'm not allowed to drink except on birthdays." And he said, "It's not your birthday, I suppose." I said, "No, no, no, no. I'm sorry." He said, "Perhaps you could." You could give me the date of your birthday so I could have a drink on it, you know. And he was, he just loved playing with you, you know. But he was a charming man, really, really sweet.
I think I would
And he
die.
had the Oscar, his Oscar for the Philadelphia Story. He had, of course, Keeping the Door Open to his study, using
One
it
of
as
my
a
very
doorstop.
favorite movies ever made.
Ah, great, great film. Yes.
I love that movie. Oh,
Yeah.
I would die if somebody said, "Oh, Catherine, you mean Catherine Hepburn."
Right. No, no, yeah, well, exactly. No, it's, in fact, I was just looking at the remake, High Society,
Mhm.
which is not a patch on the original.
No, it's not. I mean, the first one with Jimmy Stewart and Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn. I mean, you can't really get much better than that.
No, exactly. And all these sort of subsidiary people like Roland Young and so on, all these great professional comedians of the time that were just available in the studios, just sitting there, and you could have cast all these people so easily. Now you're scratching to find people of that talent.
Well, before John started writing all these wonderful books about Paris, he was writing all these books about different actors and stuff, and you had spent time in LA. So, and then but your next book coming out is a little a jump off from Paris and about an actor, Charles Boyer.
That's right, and I've finished that one now. I've signed up for another book about an actor. This time about a British actor, James Mason.
Oh, uh-huh.
Yes, I'm doing his biography now. As
Wow.
long as I can't write about Paris, because, you know, there's the sort of Paris is on the back burner. So I thought I'd go back to writing biography. And as you say, the Charles Boyer book, that'll come out the end of next year.
Oh, good.
And and then I'm doing James Mason. And they're also bringing out in paperback my biography of Joseph von Sternberg,
Oh.
which they're restoring the original title, which is Hot Voodoo.
Oh, that's going to be a big seller.
Oh, well, I don't know. Books about films never sell that much, but yeah.
But it says Hot Voodoo in there. That'll get some attention.
Well, yeah, you know, it's the name of a song in Blonde Venus that Marlene Dietrich dances to. So, yes, well, I hope so anyway.
Charles Boyer, if some of you don't know who he is, if you ever saw one of my other favorite movies, Barefoot in the Park, he plays the crazy old guy living upstairs.
Yeah, that's right. Victor Velasco.
Guy, which I just adore him. I love that movie.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, he replaced another actor who'd played the role on stage, Kurt Kasner. And Kasner just didn't feel he could do the movie, so Boyer came in. And yes, he's superb. He's very funny.
Yeah, he's very good. He's just the crazy old guy upstairs.
Yeah, who's a gourmet, of course, loves to cook.
Yes, yes, I love that. I love that movie. I mean, you have Robert Redford in there, so you can't really go wrong with especially young Robert Redford.
Well, yeah, he was in the Broadway production.
Oh.
Redford played that role, but of course, a number of actresses played the Jane Fonda role.
Right.
And each time they would try and cast the movie version, the show would keep going on and on. So they had to delay it until the show was finished. So they at one point there were 4 or 5 different actresses who were announced for the role, and then when the show went on, she dropped out, And finally, when it ended, Jane Fonda was available, and she's very good, I think.
Yeah, she's very good. It's you could definitely see that it was a stage because it basically just takes place all in that one room.
That's
You can
right. Yeah,
definitely
and
see that it was a stage.
they do that thing in the restaurant on Staten Island, but
Yes,
it's kind of dragged in.
yeah.
Mm. No,
Robert.
no, it's one of my, like you. I think he's the most charming person in it.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to get that book.
Ah, well, I'll let you know when it comes out. I'm sure I'll find you an advanced copy.
I did. You were saying right before we started that the Immovable Feast is getting republished again under
Yeah,
another.
that's right. An English publisher has brought it out. This time it's called A Paris Christmas. But it's the same text again.
Same text. Yeah.
It's a perennial, no one else that I know of has written a book about Paris and Christmas,
Mhm.
and especially with the cooking element. And yeah, it's always been successful. There's a few foreign translations as well.
Right.
So it's one of my favorites, along with Most Beautiful Walk in the World.
Yes.
It's the one that seems to keep going on.
Yeah. I also love would you do another neighborhood? Because you did Montparnasse, Montmartre,
Yeah,
and Saint-Germain. Will you do another neighborhood?
exactly. Well, the idea was that there would be five,
Oh,
and when after the last one, I was talking to HarperCollins about it, and we couldn't decide what neighborhoods would be best. We agreed more or less on the Marais as being the fourth, and the fifth. I rather wanted to do opera,
oh yeah.
because there's, people don't write a lot about that area around opera, but really the Grand Boulevard and so on are quite interesting. And you've got the Opera House, of course, you've got all the great restaurants, Café de la Paix and so on.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of associations with Hemingway and people like that there. But then we never quite got around to it, and I don't know if they'll continue or not.
Yeah. I hope so.
It would be nice, I must say, to do
Yeah.
five.
I just wrote about Hemingway and Christmas for Christmas about a Café de la Paix.
Yeah, well, the workers, they went there for their first Christmas and didn't have enough money to pay the bill. So while Hadley sat there, Hemingway had to run back to the hotel to get some cash. And I think that was symptomatic of the way Hadley was treated by him, don't you think?
Yeah.
She was always left sitting there like a bump on a log. I think she became fed up with it quite quickly.
Yeah, I think so. And she ended up having when she remarried and stuff, and it seemed like she had a pretty good life in the end.
Well, yes, she did, partly because Hemingway gave her as a sort of, because he couldn't pay alimony, he gave her the rights to The Sun Also Rises, not thinking that it would be such a bestseller. So I'm sure she remained rich on the royalties from The Sun Also Rises.
Yeah, that was a smart move. I think I read that it was like within the first 4 months or something, it was like a very large sum of money.
Yeah, that's right.
For
Quite
that
right. Too. She deserved it.
Yeah, yeah. But they stayed in contact his basically the rest of his life.
Yeah, that's what I'm a bit doubtful about. That I know this is what some people say, but that's what Hemingway said.
Right.
There's not much evidence that they did, and the stories he tells about running into her in front of Brasserie Lip and inviting her to lunch and everything. There's no support for any of this. No one was around to see this happen.
Well,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, I know that he did ring her up when he was writing Movable Feast to remind himself of certain events. But that's the only time that I've ever really believed they did remain in touch.
I do. I love this. I love the way that he just kind of described, and it was A.E. Hotchner that wrote about the fact that he saw him, that she saw, or he saw her. But when I was doing stuff for a video I was doing for the American Women's Group, and I really love that story, but I was really having a very hard time figuring out the timeline because of when he left, and he says it was when he was coming back from a safari, but the dates that I was looking for, Hadley would have already been in London. So it was, I added that story, I think, into when we did the podcast episode about Hadley, but there's a few things about it, like you said, the timing doesn't completely 100% jive.
No, I agree. I think that whole book, what's it called, Hemingway in Love or something,
Yeah.
that Hotchner did,
Yeah.
almost all the episodes in that are dubious.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, the episode in True at First Light, where he has an affair with the concierge, that took place when he and Hadley split up for the first time, when they were in with the Murphys down in Antibes, and Hemingway and Hadley kind of gave an ultimatum to Hemingway that either it was her or Pauline, and then she went back to Paris and left Hemingway there alone. And he said to Gerald Murphy, "I don't want to go back to the apartment with Hadley. Have you got a place I can stay in Paris, because I need to read the proofs of The Sun Also Rises." And Murphy lent him this apartment that he had, which was up there right on the next to the cemetery in Montparnasse.
Mm-hmm.
And he describes how he moves in there into an attic room, and he starts to sleep with the concierge. And that fits very exactly into that particular period.
Mm-hmm.
Except that in True at First Light, they don't give any dates or any corroboration, but it's very clear that fits in there.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the stories about Hemingway and his love life are all a bit fuzzy around the edges, aren't they?
Yeah, well, and then, books, other books come out, Paris Wife and things like that, and makes it even fuzzier.
Yeah, I don't believe that the two of them in bed with Hemingway. I can't see that.
Yeah,
happening.
no, I have, we've talked about this many times. I have my issues with historical fiction because I think a lot of people look at it as just fiction. So they, a lot of times they kind of take what, they learn from that and think that that's kind of the way it goes.
Well, I've written novels, in which I use episodes from my own life, and I know what I do with them. I don't. They're not documentary in any sense. I twist things around, replace characters, and so on. You have to.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I was once asked to write the biography of a man in the form of a novel, because he said, my children will never read a biography, but they might read a novel. But it's so difficult to turn a person's life into a novel, because that's not how we live.
Right.
And I mean, it worked all right, got published and everything, but I was never satisfied with it.
Yeah. And you've written, over 40 books, right?
Published, yes,
Published.
yes.
Wow.
I know. Well, I feel guilty about it sometimes, but still, better than digging ditches.
You shouldn't feel guilty. You're amazing at doing it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I hope everybody got a chance to read this one, and then it hopefully got you down the rabbit hole of all of John's books.
Well, that would be nice. I mean, yes, read, please. This would be great.
Yeah. And the last two books you've done, A Year in Paris. Somebody has A Year in Paris.
That's right. Yeah, that was the last one I did. That's quite historical. That was, again, fun to do.
That was great.
That was a different area for me.
I loved some of the stories we've talked about were then put into the book. Like,
yes, exactly. Yeah. Well, I'm don't waste good stories.
No, I love the story of the man that had made Bonaparte's laurel wreath crown.
Oh yes, and kept the gold leaf, gold laurel leaf. Yes, used it to pay off his daughter's dowry.
Yes,
that's right, and it still exists. The leaf in its little case was auctioned off not quite recently actually. So the story does hold up.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's all sorts of, the Paris is just like a cornucopia. You don't have to scratch the surface to find really wonderful stories.
No, and it's endless,
It seems so,
endless,
yes. Mm,
endless stories.
mm.
Yeah, if you get a chance and you could go on a little walk, I think we should team up and do it together.
That would be great, wouldn't it? Oh, what a team we'd make, yes.
I know, nobody get a word in edgewise.
Well, if they ever let us back on the streets in Paris, it'd be a fun thing to do.
That's true. Yeah, I did the first one when I first met you. I did the Montparnasse tour,
That's
which was
right, yeah.
very fun.
Mm.
Which is then where I found the great place to get steak tartare.
Yes, that's right. Yes, that little place, the Charivari, is exceptional tartare. What is it? The fifth best tartare in Paris, I think.
Yeah,
From the
yeah,
Figaro did a poll.
yeah. And your daughter wanted to ask. Didn't she ask you if there was gonna be food in the book? One of the
That's
books
right.
writing.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Well, and of course, Montparnasse is not great for food, but there you can eat well in a few places. Even La Coupole, the food's not bad. It's just keep away from the lamb curry.
Oh,
French have no idea about curry, I'm afraid.
well, it's a little spicy, so
They don't like anything too hot. They hate piment. So
right.
yeah, what a
Unless
pity.
it's Yves Camdador and his because he's from down there, so they put it on everything.
Well, yeah, this is true. We went somewhere or other when they advertised salmon tandoori. Well, tandoori, you've got to put the meat into a clay oven, which is very hot, and salmon would be hopeless. It would cook in an instant. So I ordered it just to see what it was like. And this was a very good chef. I forget. Anyway, it turned out all it was a piece of grilled salmon, and he'd taken some tandoori spice and sort of sprinkled it on the top the way you do pepper. That was his idea of salmon tandoori, and that's kind of typical of the French ideas about spicy food, I'm afraid.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think they don't like spicy food?
Oh, well, who knows? Try and explain things about the French. I suppose there's no spice in French food. I mean, not traditionally. Spices were usually used to preserve and also to disguise the flavor of meat that was not fresh. Well, that was never a problem with the French because they produce all their own meat, and so they didn't need any disguises. They did use sugar a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So they're great experts on sweet things. So they love doing things confit, cooking them with sugar, preserving them with sugar, which the Indians, for instance, don't do. Mm-hmm. But the only place you see piment in French cooking is around here, because Rochefort, which is the nearest big town, used to be the royal port in the time of Louis XIV. This is where the ships arrived. And the ships bringing spices from the east would pass through here. And I'm sure the locals would steal a little pinch here and a pinch there. And there's a local dish called mouclade, which is mussels cooked in a cream sauce with chili, with curry powder. Not a lot of curry powder, but just, some curry powder. And I'm sure that's the only curry dish that I know of in France.
Yeah, I was shocked one time when I saw a bottle of Tabasco someplace.
Very rare.
Where it was.
A while back, Diane Johnson and Terence Gellinter were on a panel together, and somebody in the audience said, "What do you most miss about America?" And they both said in unison, "Mexican food."
It's the only thing that I crave when I'm there for a few weeks. I will at least one day crave Mexican food.
Yeah, well, crave in vain, my dear. There's nothing to be had. That's why we cook a lot ourselves, but no, there are no really good Mexican restaurants.
I'll bring you some spicy salsa.
Ah, lovely. Well, yeah, I really love salsa verde. It was very hard to get here.
Yeah,
We do our own. I do a lot of Mexican cooking, and luckily you can now buy tortillas in most supermarkets. Not tacos though, not the crisp tacos. They still haven't got used to that.
yeah.
But maybe, you know, in a few years they'll come around. But for the moment, I really miss those lovely crunchy tacos.
I'll bring you some taco shells.
Oh, they'd never survive, would they? You end up with tortilla chips.
Bubble wrap them.
Well, maybe, yeah. Well, I'll cheerfully accept them.
I'll just have one piece of luggage just for a box of tacos.
Yes, bring your own taco. Well, you'd be wise because you really can't find them here at all.
Well, I do notice that people call just chips and salsa. They'll call it, and I've noticed it from people in England as well as France. They call it nachos, and I'm like, no. That is not a nacho.
They're not nachos. No. But you're right. Yeah, well, that's true. They just mix some cheese with some tortilla chips and put the tomato salsa on top, and voila, nachos. But no, not the same at all.
Yeah, it's like that is. That's why I think that if maybe I'll come there and set up a nacho restaurant and find a way to import Tillamook cheddar cheese that comes from Oregon and be a billionaire.
Yeah, well, I wish that, you know, there used to be little shops that specialized in American products, but they've all disappeared now. There are just not as many Americans in Paris permanently as there used to be. You know, there used to be that there were a lot of corporate companies, you know, that brought over American officers and their wives and families. So there was a big, you know, market, but no longer. All those places have shut down.
It seems
Which
like
is a great pity.
the expats I know over there, they always want peanut butter.
Yeah. Well, you can get that in most supermarkets now.
Yeah, and I've seen sometimes you'll see an American section, and they always have big jars of what do they call it? Marshmallow fluff.
Oh yes, gosh.
I've never had in my life, but they always have the American section, and it's peanut butter and marshmallow fluff. And I was like, I don't know anybody that's ever eaten that.
No, I agree. I mean, their ideas of what Americans like. A lot of breakfast cereals and things like that as well. And it's granola. I love granola.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a very funny idea of what Americans are, I'm afraid, in Paris.
Well, you know, in America, everybody thinks everybody eats French toast and French fries, and you know.
Well, only if, you know, all the supermarkets carry now what they call American sandwich bread, which is nothing like any bread I ever ate in America at all. It's very white, very doughy, and no flavor at all. It's like Wonder Bread.
Right,
you know?
right.
Yeah. But no, real American cooking is no, it's a lot. It's just doesn't exist here, sadly.
I don't know if it exists here either.
Well, I was, you know, I lived in the South for a while, and I got used to eating barbecue and eating Cajun food and so on. And when I moved here, of course, I missed out on all of those wonderful flavors, and there's no way here that you can get anything like that. You really have to be right there in the bayou, you know, to get that real Cajun food.
Yeah, that's the good spicy stuff. I love spicy things.
Yeah, me too. I miss, and of course I'm Louise and Marie Dominique and everybody else. They got used to spicy food now. In fact, when Louise would bring home her friends from school, you know, when she was like 7 and 8, and we would have maybe guacamole or something a bit exotic, something Chinese, for instance. You know, she loved egg foo young, you know, the Chinese omelet, and the little kids would look at it, you know, and say, you know, can't I have some frite and some pat, you know, noodles? They were used to eating just that, chips and noodles.
It's kind of like what I think a lot of American kids do too.
Well, this is true, yeah. we
Chicken
went,
nuggets?
once Louise went to have lunch with a school friend, and when we went to collect her, the mother said, "Oh, I fear that we disappointed Louise with what we served for lunch." I asked her what she would like, and she said, "Could she have a crab souffle?"
I think you did it right, John.
Oh well, yes, she's very. We were in a restaurant once when she was about, I guess, 7 or 8. You know, she could barely look over the table, and she loves artichokes. So they served a whole artichoke, and she, you know, tore it apart and dunked it in the vinaigrette and everything. And this American couple came over from another table, and I said, "I've never seen anything like that. That little girl, she ate that whole artichoke. I mean, it was incredible." And Louise is looking up to them and saying, "So, you know, what? It's an artichoke, you know."
You raised her right, John.
I think so. I like to think so, yes.
Well, we should probably let you go so you could go celebrate Mary Dominique's
Well,
birthday.
yeah, I should do that as well, yes. But it's been great talking to you. I really enjoyed, almost as good as being face to face.
Almost as good. Hopefully soon. Hopefully soon.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? Yes, your lips to God, as they say. Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
I've changed 3 trips now, so I'm hoping for the spring.
Oh well, I will be waiting here with the coffee boiling and the croissants warm.
Yeah. I guess I should ask, does anybody have any questions for John real quick?
I was just going to say thank you so much because I was intrigued by your books, and it's wonderful to hear you speak and speak
Well,
to
thank
you.
you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. That's very kind.
John, I wanted to show you
Also-
something all the way
Yes.
from Gainesville, Florida,
Right.
which is near me.
Right?
We have a coffee shop that my stepson got me this cup,
That's
and it's the name of your pig.
right. Yes, exactly. Pascal the
So when
pig.
I
What
read
wonderful.
that, it made me
Oh,
laugh.
well, we're all part of the same community, I think, aren't we?
That's great.
Great. Well, I hope
Yes. So
you
I
enjoyed
got
the book,
that
and I
for a
hope you
gift
can read.
last year, and it made me laugh.
Well, this is very kind. Thank you very much.
But the pig can't be named Napoleon. It's a French.
No,
Very
definitely
much.
not. No,
Thank you.
Pascal or nothing.
Yeah, it's a French law that you can't name your pig Napoleon.
No, I wouldn't think of it.
Isn't
Not
that funny?
yeah.
Yeah, very funny.
In
Well,
fact,
We did get very good Mexican food in Edinburgh. And that was
really?
15 years
Oh,
ago.
I'm impressed. Well,
That was 15 years ago. Yes, and they were so proud. They said we have real Mexican cooks,
well,
but the food was good.
So you could. It's like in London. You can get great curry in London, and you know, Edinburgh, of course, has a large Italian community. So the Italian food in Edinburgh is excellent. It pops up everywhere. It's just that the French, there's no market. So restaurants that try and serve Mexican food, they just wither away, sadly.
Funny.
My one of my friends at Le Vin Comptoir de la Terre, of course, you know, right by your house. Oscar, he's originally from Mexico. He is one of the chefs there, and one time he made a taco, and it was in more like it was almost like a pita, but he kind of fried this thing, and it had pork belly and all this stuff in there, and oh my God, it was so delicious. And every time I talk to him, I'm like, I need the taco. So when I come back, he says I'll make it, and so we'll have to go there and have the taco.
Oh, this would be great. Well, all sorts of culinary adventures lie before us. Yeah,
Lots of them,
would be
all
great.
of them.
Well, I hope we can get together soon again.
Me too. We will. I'm sure we will soon. I'm hopeful.
Okay, great. Well, really great talking to you.
You too. I miss you dearly. I miss of course Paris, but I always miss our wonderful lunches, and I'm so glad you had time to do this, and then I could share you with everybody else.
Oh,
Thank you.
it was tremendous. I love it.
We'll do it again in a few days.
Okay, this would be tremendous. Okay.
Okay, well,
Well,
tell everybody
Happy
hi.
holidays. What remains of them.
Thank you so much, John.
Okay, love talking
Love
to you.
to the
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.